A bit of a
More flyers worked off.
anyhow, the seed then has sort of like an onion skin seed coat, which comes off. It's real thin, just like onion skin. And then there's this little attachment to the stem end that is sort of like the umbilical cord. And then this stuff here is sort of like the placenta. It has a bunch of like molasses, tarry stuff many times, and the two cotyledons seem to absorb from energy and whatnot that way. So I like to just take this and put it in water for a few days, and then the skin comes off this, and I'll peel this one off as best I can so that you can see the multiple embryos, and you'll see several little baby roots. The radicle is, there's the one that you expect, which is the result of pollination, so it's a two-parent thing. I should have selected a seed that shows it. Anyhow, when you plant the seed, you will get, I think this will show. It's cobbled together. You have the main two cotyledons, but then you have also a bunch of little cobbled together segments that are just sort of bound together, and each one will have a radicle, a baby root.
So there's more than one?
So there's a root here, and there's a root there. The little pink dots are the roots. There's another one there. I see 3 roots on this thing. We can pass it around. If you plant this, 3 little trees will come up, sometimes up to 5, and you can tell which one came from the main cotyledons, and that'll probably be the result of pollination. But all the other little seedlings will be true to the parent, because it comes from the parent's tissue. And you don't have to bother grafting. The manila types basically are polyembryonic.
Jim, the seed, is it planted with the hump part up?
Okay, this is the way I plant the Indian mangoes. And then I cover it. I leave some exposed part that turns green, carries on photosynthesis, and it seems to make it want to start to mold or something like that much less when it starts to turn green and carry on photosynthesis. These polyembryonic ones I usually plant sort of semi-flat because there's going to be different shoots come up. So planting it like this doesn't work as well. It's best to plant it.
What kind of material are you using to plant it?
This is the Ataulfo or champagne. You know, that little yellow one.
What kind of dirt are you using?
Oh, the medium.
The medium.
Something with a little perlite and mulch and stuff mixed in with it.
Okay.
But you can see those little pink dots, if you want to pass that around. The Indian mangoes, they just grow like a bean. They're 2 big cotyledons, and so you see which end has the radicle or the root, and you put that in the middle of the pot, and then just cover all, but you put the hump up, in other words, the concave side is where the root is coming down. And just expose a little bit of it and set it off in partial shade. And before long, you'll see the cotyledons start to separate a little bit, and up will come, looks just like a beam coming up between those two cotyledons. So that's the difference between the Asian polyembryonic types and the Indian monoembryonic.
Can you plant the seeds after they've dried?
Well, it's best to plant your tropical, subtropical stuff as soon as you can.
Okay.
If you let them, some people think that it's easier to open these if you let them dry a little bit, but I think it's a bad idea. And a lot of people, they like to really chew down to the nitty-gritty, and sometimes late in the season, the root will be coming out, and you chew off the root that's ready to emerge. It's best take it easy on chewing off some of it. It's all set to go? Okay.
Jim, is there any benefit in trying to gently separate the little pieces?
I've done that.
Does that work?
Yeah, it works. You can flush off all the soil and just separate them and plant 2-3 little plants.
Or if you were able to separate them even before they start sprouting?
Yeah, if you start them in water, I've had them grow this high just sitting in water that I kept changing regularly.
Oh,
Okay. This looks like it's very promising. I think it's going to work. Should I? Okay. Okay, so the order of things is up there basically, and then you will see slides of the Florida. I think the number of varieties is infinite. It's interesting to note some of the other areas where they're growing mangoes. In Israel, they're growing them sort of trained on wires and espaliers and things like that to keep them very short. They've come up with some cultivars. Their name is BD something, some number for pet value. And as far as the soil goes, they'll grow in some pretty gravelly, whatnot soil, but probably the drainage is important. Okay, here's Frank over by College Mountain. And this tree, I guess, is, he thinks it's around 30-some years old. And it's a seedling tree that he picked up at Stephen Spangler's, I think. Is that right, Frank?
Yes.
And those, what, weigh about a pound? Frank? Where's Frank?
Pardon?
They weigh about a pound, do they?
Something
Looks like they
that,
probably weigh about a pound.
Yes, yeah, pretty nice size. Mango.
Okay. And here's my old buddy Leo. It looks like this tree, if all of those mangoes were to develop, it would expire. So, the best thing to do is to thin out and pick out the ones that are the nicest shade and the brightest green color, because they sort of self-thin. They have to. And here's David Silverstein, right near the beach, up on the hill off of Ocean Beach. That's Nandok Mai, yellow elongated Thai variety. Very nice fruit. And he gets a lot of fruit on it. Mildew is a big problem. And Leo and I have discussed various ideas about how to control that mildew, but when it comes to application, we don't get around to it too often. There is the tree on Talbot Street. You can see it's all cemented in, but it produces fruit. There's David over there on the right, so you get a perspective.
So does the cement keep its roots warm?
You know, it's possible. I don't know. I was thinking that the big concern would be to give it enough water. And here's a friend in Spring Valley. David has very nice tree. This is what I was telling you that was spotted this year by mildew so badly. This is June bloom way into July. And there's a friend of his, I think that picture on the right was taken a year later. And you can see the fruit up there. The same tree. So you can see it's a pretty good sized tree.
On the back side of the
Oh, this year it is loaded. I couldn't believe it.
Which variety is it?
It's a seedling. But seed from this tree would probably be very good for root stock.
This is a Manila variety, probably.
I've eaten some. I'll have to check and see.
Okay.
And here's David's daughter at another place. This is Bill Sherr's place in Point Loma. And then on the right is another tree that we found, probably one of the biggest in Point Loma. And it has some fruit, pretty nice sized fruit. I imagine that it got picked by passerbys. Okay, now these trees were drafted by Paul Townsend. This is just south of San Diego State. There was a couple, they were from India, and he retired and moved just a year or two ago from it. But David has kept in touch with some of the renters and gets signed with there every once in a while. I think that's the Aloha variety there. And anyhow, this big tree here on the left is the Aloha. And then there is the Thompson and the Winters. 20222 was a Florida cultivar, and they gave the number a name. They call it Winters, not to confuse with Peggy Winters. We just call that Peggy now mostly. So those trees they're right there on the edge of this property. It drops down below that, but the retaining wall means that it's got lots of good deep soils are growing too, and the trees seem to be happy as can be. That's David Archer in that picture. Okay, this is Paul Fisher's Oro. There is another Oro variety that has a reddish cheek. This is just a gotten to be a really good-sized tree. Beautiful 1 pound fruit, sometimes a little larger. Really sweet. Okay. These are some of the cultivars that are sort of tried and proven. Aloha was one of Jerry Stadley's developments. Early Gold, Captain Buckley, that's from Florida. And the Glen is growing very, very well in Quail Gardens. It's producing a nice crop this year. The Kensington, Leo's tree seems to always be producing nice, good-sized fruit. And then from the Peggy, an old-time member of ours that used to organize a lot of trips, she rescued a seed from the dumpster, planted it, and it grew into this seedling tree that produced a nice, good-sized round fruit with pretty red blush and very sweet and so forth. Then Leo grew a seedling of it, and so that's Leo's Peggy, which he liked probably best of all, I think. And Thompson's Manila, very reliable. Valencia Pride seems to have done well for us. Jerry Stadley used to have a lot of mangoes right off of Home Avenue. Then he moved up on Rainbow Heights. And he had various varieties, but he pretty much settled on 2 varieties, Valencia Pride and I forget the other one. But Valencia Pride is a nice long fruit in the desert that really gives a gorgeous, big, delicious fruit. Then the 20222, which has been around for a long time, very reliable, pretty fruit, not so big. But if you're interested in checking on the varieties, we've had pretty good luck with Carrie. Carrie is sort of a dwarfish tree. There are probably a lot of mangoes that do well, but I think it's very worthwhile considering these trees in the neighborhood that have vigor and make good seedlings and grow your seed, your tree, get some good rootstock going, and then top work it. Mangoes are not hard to graft in the warm months like May, June, July, August. This year, we have different, yeah. Okay, here's some pictures. When we were at Captain Buckley's, some of the trees we couldn't determine for sure what they were. There were 3x5 cards with data on them, but this was supposed to be Zill, which is another good variety by a famous propagator in Florida. And then there is the early gold, very reliable, earlier fruiting and so forth. It's, but I think Leo thinks that this one was probably mislabeled. That's actually early gold also. Right. Okay. There's, is that the Peggy Winters, Leo? On the right?
This perspective, I can't tell if it's Peggy Winters or the seedling of Peggy. I think it may be the seedling.
Oh, okay. Okay, it's a gorgeous fruit. And there's an example of the Oro, probably about 2 months from being ripe. Okay. The Kensington, very reliable producer for Leo. And the Thompson's polyembryonic manila there. Another heavy producer. Villa Senor is a tree from Oceanside. The grandmother of Victor Villaseñor, the author of some of the different books on Mexico, his grandma planted this tree. And Leo and I got some sandwich from him. And it produces quite regularly.
Smaller fruit, though.
Well, sometimes they're more elongated also. Then the aloha, very pretty big fruit. The snows over in Casa de Oro have an aloha tree and a chuotuchutu that produce very, very well. It's a nice big. The Glen, that's the one that I was mentioning, is growing also in Quail Gardens. Seems to do well there. The Valencia Pride, you can see the shape of the Valencia Pride. Nice, big, delicious fruit. Okay, here we are in the desert by the Salton Sea. And the gentleman there in the middle is Miss Kawahara from Riverside, and Dick Snow, and there's Jack Field. Where are you, Jack? Okay. And Dick Snow and Alice Snow. And I think what they have there in their hands are their turpentine fruits for seeding rootstock. It's a smaller, not too big fruit, and it has quite a bit of fiber and so forth, but it makes a good rootstock. And those big boxes are filled with kit mangoes.
Wow.
The kit mangoes, they come on in, right after the Kents. The Kents are finishing this year rather early, but usually it's September, October before you see the kits, which is a big oblong fruit. And Theo has a tree that produces these fruits, but I think each year it gets a little smaller because it cranks out those big monster fruits, and they don't ripen until middle of winter, right?
This is what you're talking about? Oh, kit, yeah. It's done better than Kent.
Yeah. How old is that tree?
Kent,
You're a kid.
I don't know.
It must be about
No.
10, 15 years, isn't it?
Well, maybe 10.
10. Anyhow, it's about so high, but it produces these big fruit. Okay, there's how they grow the trees in the Salton Sea. There's quite a bit of alkaline soil and stuff, so they sort of make a ridge and plant on top of that ridge. I think they work in mulch and stuff like that, but by building up some higher soil, the alkaline soils drain away, and you can see the trees look quite healthy. Lots of nice sized trees. And there are two growers that I know of. This is called Three Flags Ranch, I believe. And they used to sell to Costco. And then I think they sold mostly to Japan because of the price, the corner of the market. They thought that they would have a real good corner of, window of opportunity by having fruit that gets ripe in September, October. But now we have mangoes year-round because they're coming from Ecuador, Peru, Chile, God knows where, Brazil. Lancetilla, great big fruit, David Archer has grown some. And San Felipe is supposed to be the cat's meow.
As far as flavor,
Uh-huh. That's one that I think he just picked up a tree of it.
So how would you describe the flavor?
Well, see, for some people, if it's sweet, that's the supreme test. For me, it has to have some pizzazz, a little aciduousness with the sweetness. A little turpentine flavor, in my view, is fine.
Excuse me, I can see can. Do we have can in California?
They can't. Leo has a tree of it.
Oh,
Uh-huh.
because I can see.
We haven't had good luck with it.
It's very good.
Oh yeah, that's what we're eating tonight. Yeah. Okay, Cao is, they call these condominium mangoes, the trees that stay small. In Florida, it's important that some of the trees stay small. Here, it's not much of a problem. And
is it actually a dwarf type tree, Jim?
Yeah. Yeah, those ones that they call condominium mangoes, that's what they're implying is that and there is the Ataulfo that I was talking to you about, also called champagne because it sounds pretty. It's a good fruit. It's the only yellow mango, I think, that is a big deal commercially. And it's early. If you get them just right, they're quite nice. Later on in the season comes the hazy. It's a very pretty fruit, red with golden speckles. Then the Tommy Atkins also. Tommy Atkins, you find them all the time almost in the stores now, but it's usually earlier.
Comment on the taste of it.
Well, Tommy is a little bit like the Red Delicious apple. It looks nice, but leaves you sort of unsatisfied most of the time. And the others are really good. Haiti can be a very nice fruit. It's not as popular commercially now because it's sort of perishable, turns soft. That's the big mango in Hawaii, however, because I guess it was the first important mango, and that's what you see a lot of in Hawaii. And the kits are the big, beautiful, oblong mangoes, sort of a lighter yellow flesh, delicious fruit. You can eat that one also green. In Thailand and India, Asia, so they like to eat green mangoes, sort of the way as kids we like to eat green apples. And Tommy, you see how pretty they can look. So the stores love them because you can probably play football with them and still sell them. The Kent is probably the best that I've ever found in stores. Okay. All about grafting. Somebody mentioned grafting. And these are some of the different grafts that I've used. If you have good rootstocks and you have some variety that you really want, well, just get a good scientist. Here shows, this is a seed that Diego and Kevin brought back from Florida. And you can see that the seed was only down in this portion here. And the rest of it is just blank. So it's sort of misleading. But it serves as a foundation for all that lovely fresh. Okay, here here, this slide shows the baby root coming, the umbilical cord, the stem right here, the fuzzy wuzzy, and then all of this is what I call placenta, and I really like to remove that also by soaking it in water and then peeling that off, because there's all kinds of unused, it's like molasses, I guess nutrient or something, and sometimes that invites some pathogens. So if you clean your seeds completely, you can even start it after you get it clean. I put them in a plastic bag and leave them outside. They start to push some roots and then plant them. So there, remember I said it's like a bean, the two cotyledons, and then the little plant that pops up. Sometimes you have to pry it apart a bit and like nursemaid help it out, get started, and there's a tree a few weeks later. The different kinds of signwood. If you can find buds that are just about ready to pop, that's very good. I particularly like these sort of knuckles. When the tree finishes blooming, it sits still for a while, and then some buds start to swell. And just as they're swelling, that makes a real good sign, because a lot of starches are stored up, and sometimes you leave a little bit of the leaf, the base of the leaf, and the leaf stem
Jim,
on also.
after you've grafted it and you have it in the plastic bag and the paper bag over the top of it and all, and the rack with the towel around the graft union, how long do you leave it generally before you can sort of harden it off or take it out of the plastic?
Okay. I think we have some shots here that will show it's starting to grow. And when we get there, I'll point that out. This is the rib and tongue graft. There's the splice graft. With the rib and tongue, you just cut it off and then start about a quarter of the way through the tip and carefully cut in. You sometimes have to pull your knife so that it doesn't go flying off. And then you do the same thing with your rootstock piece. And then you just slide them in together.
Lick them first.
Lick them or dip them in a little water. I like to do that. Put a little added moisture. And then wrap it up. And as I've often said, you don't need three hands to do it, because it pretty much holds itself in position. And then you can wrap the wrapping tape around the wound, and then moist paper towel and plastic bag. Here's another graft. This one I call a saddle graft. This is sort of like an upside down cleft or wedge graft. And I like it because I don't have to do a lot of trauma to the scion piece. The scion piece, I just split it up the middle. Sometimes I reverse my knife blade and cut out a little bit, and then just make my wedge on the rootstock and slip it on, wrap it up. That works very well. And here's a simple splice graft. For most things, that's actually probably sufficient. I just like some of the other grafts because it gives so much hanging contact. And after it's wrapped up, usually I'll start it down below and then sneak up on the lower portion of the graft and wrap it up. And then this is David Archer's bag. He's got a big bag, and sometimes he has a straw and he blows in air and this and complicated. I like to just wrap some paper toweling around here, wet paper toweling, and then slip a plastic bag over it, and then little paper sack with holes to shade it, and the holes so that it doesn't heat up too much. Those are David Archer's bigger bags, and it's in a under protection, so there's no wind problem or anything. Straightforward. Okay, here you can see it's starting to grow. The different buds are starting to pop out, and usually we like to have a couple inches of growth, or one spurt of growth, and then take off the bag and everything, and maybe just a roll of paper. I know Leo uses like a 8.5 by 11 piece of paper, some scrap paper or whatever, and rolls it around and then just sort of bends the top over a little bit, and then he can peek in anytime he wants to, and seems to work out very well. Otherwise, set your tree in some filtered shade or partial shade, and it should be fine. Okay, different kinds of wrap. This is possible. This is what they do with avocado a lot. They're stock wrap. And here's your typical waist wrap or cleft wrap. And you can see all the callus. What happens first is it starts to form callus, and then the callus just sort of melts together. And that's why I think it's important to wrap it pretty tight with wrapping tape. I think we have the Florida trip installment coming up. While CLO is getting that to come up, if there's some questions, I may as well answer a few now.
I have a 6-year-old Manila mango, and I can't seem to get it to fruit. It'll flower in the spring, and then I lose all of the.
Well, usually you lose the blossoms because of mildew.
That's probably what's happening.
And I heard that, or I've read that you can mix up like a few tablespoons of horticultural oil, like woke oil or safer, and a few tablespoons of baking soda in a gallon of water. Mix that up and spray with that. And if you never let mildew get started, it's not so much of a problem. Once it gets started, it's harder to curb. But my feeling is that it's important to not lose that new growth, the new leaves, and not lose your blooms to mildew, because it is a big pest. The other disease problem is a little bit akin to our fire blights on pears and apples and stuff like that. Those are called anthracnose. And you'll see stems, tips oftentimes just start to turn dark brown or black almost. And here and there, there'll be blemishes on the stems. And what you want to do is keep cutting down until in the cambium you don't see any more brown. It's just like with the firelight apples and stuff. You've got to get down below where there's any infection to stop it from just working its way down.
I'm over at Coronado and I have a vanilla mango
Uh-huh.
and it's absolutely loaded. Am I to understand you said to pinch off some of the fruits when they're small?
If you have a bunch of small fruit, you can sort of calculate what the tree, according to its size, can support. It's just like peaches. If you don't thin your peaches, you get garbage.
Yeah, little pieces, all
Uh-huh.
fits.
And so, give the tree a break and have it crank out what looks, common sense.
Okay.
Uh-huh. Linda?
Which was the variety of mango that you said is kind of a freestone-ish?
Okay, I understand that Bombay. You've seen how they cut the avocado sometime, and they'll
twist them,
just
yeah.
twist it. That you can do that with the Bombay mango.
Okay.
But I've not tried it.
Jim, I did some graphs at the end of May, and I've been checking on them, and a few of them are still surviving. I believe they're still green, and they still have the little knuckles with just kind of a tiny little shoot on it, but I've gotten no actual real growth yet.
Okay.
Is it just the weather that's caused that, or?
Probably. I know Leo can respond to that. He's had grafts sit for months and months, and finally they start to move. As long as it's looking good and green, no problem.
Should I keep it in plastic and paper, or can I remove the plastic and just put paper over, or what would be the best course?
You say it's been on since May.
End of May, yeah. It's been about almost 2 months.
Well, maybe give it another month, and then if it doesn't take the
With the plastic and the wrap.
yeah,
Moist wrap.
just leave it as it is. Sometimes I have to go back in and moisten the paper toweling because it dries out.
Jim? The good stuff is not flush and growing. I sometimes will fertilize those that
Yeah, that's a good idea. Give it a shot of fertilizer.
The tree itself, not the grass.
The tree, yeah.
Did I understand that you said that the grafting are best when the fruit just starting to bloom?
That the grafting is best. The best time to graft,
No, I'm talking about, you know how they're blooming?
right?
I thought you said that they're starting to bloom, that's a section that could be used for
Oh, well, like the low pot also, same thing. After the thing has bloomed or fruited or whatever, in this case with the mango, you want to do it like in the month of May, June, July, August. And what I found is that those blunt ends where it's bloomed and it's dropped the raceme and so forth in the whole fruit, if you wait a few weeks, you'll start to see a little bud want to swell. And if you harvest those, that seems to work very well.
Hey, Jim, the slides are ready.
Okay. This is our friend Campbell, Richard Campbell. You can see he's a very serious guy. He spoke at our Festival of Fruit 3 years ago, something like that. He was a big hit, very helpful gentleman. Anyhow, this is the cover of a magazine. What do you call it? Soft foods or edible something. Anyhow, he's enjoying his mango.
Are those mangoes in the middle, that thing that's about a foot long? Further down.
Okay, Cielo should.
I'll just stop from here. Every year there's a International Mango Festival in Miami, Florida, and this is the third year that we have gone to. My husband and I, we started in 2008. And so it's held at the Fairchild Tropical Garden, and Richard Campbell is the curator for that garden. So every year they have this Mango Mania. It is held on the second weekend in July. It's like, I cannot get any higher.
Next year we should form a caravan.
So this year, the theme is Indian mangoes. So everything Indian. So they have these Saturday music, and then there's these mango tasting all day long. It's $1 to taste, I think like 8 or 10 of them on Saturday, and then they brought out different varieties on Sunday.
not such an elongated big fruit. This one must be some seedling of Saigon or something like that, because that's incredible size.
So some of the activities at the festival, they have workshops, they have seminars, and then they imported these two guys, well, one guy from India. And these guys, these are not their full-time job. They're like pharmacists and dentists, and they just dabble in mango growing. And so this guy is Eric, and he works their own Pine Island nursery. They ship to California, but you're gonna pay a hefty price. But you can Google Pine Island nursery, and they do ship to California. There's some varieties that they ship. But anyway, so we were learning how to graft here. So it's interesting to see how they were grafting, that it just kind of turned on the light bulb for me, and I thought, as soon as I get home, I'm going to do that. So, of course, I had to check with Jim and say, hey, what do you think of that? And say, oh, yeah, you can do that. Like, to me, it was new and nothing new for Jim. And, of course, they have mango here. So another place, this is a real touristy shop. It's called Robert. Robert is here. But look at all of the list of smoothies and milkshakes that you can have. I mean, they have mame, canastol. I think when I was there, I wanted a sapodilla, and they were out. It's just incredible. And this place also, they will ship fruits to California. But it's a touristy place, so you can expect to pay a bunch.
Yeah, guanabana.
Oh, wow.
This is one of the treats she just had to have.
That's all we gotta have. The fruits are already loaded.
That's the trick.
I took that picture. Oh, yeah, Laura took that picture. So that's why it's always nice to have people around and say, hey, take a picture. And there's a mango beer. And so next year is the 2011 Rare Food Conference at the Food and Spice Park. It's only held every 3 years. And so they include the International Mango Festival at the end of it. So it's your option to go. Usually they start on a Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and then Saturday is on your own time, and then Sunday you go back to the park for more workshop or seminar. But 3 years, 2008, we visited quite a bit. It's kind of like, we have UC Riverside Citrus Collection here. So they kind of have the counterpart, but instead of citrus, they're mangoes, they're mame, zapotes, canastol, a lot more of your tropical stuff. And then, it's like what's on the ground, they will let you pick up. So we usually bring it back. So it's kind of neat. So this morning, this is a mame here. This morning I had some of these for milkshake. And then for snack I had a sapodilla seasoning. So I brought some fruits, and what I did was I cut them up to, and then froze them to single servings, and then so in the morning, after my 10 miles this morning, I had 2 of those. I think that's it.
Okay. Should we raffle off those 2 cases of Kent mangoes now?
Actually, let's do the first things first. Is we need to do the raffle for the name badges.
Okay.
Andrea, do you have the raffle for the name badges? You have your name badge.
Where do we get our plant?
Okay, name that. 714. He gets a badge. Whatever you want. Okay. All right, folks. If you guys want to buy raffle tickets, I'll be selling them here.
Everybody's getting line for ice cream. Here.
Anyone else? Tickets?
Was a raffle? Here.
Okay, what up? 650. There's where I got
Yeah, those two should get you straight down.
See anymore.
See plenty of mine, you know.
still would feel more comfortable.
Tickets. The lotteries for 65.
Not too much.
All right. Like maybe a liquid fertilizer? Like a Dr. Earth or something like that?
Well, yeah, if that.
What's your idea? Actually, both of them.
It's like a passion fruit. Is that what it is?
That's what she said, but it's not what I'm used to calling passion fruit. It's good.
Maybe some different variety.